Hello, my name is Dovid B. Timeless, and it's 420. You know, when you're timeless, it's 420 all the time. So let's get high. So, being that this is the final week of the 7 weeks leading to the holiday of Shavuot, which is dedicated to the quality, I can't think of the word that I want, but the one of the essential parts of the tree of life, the last part called Malchus, which is kingship, royalty. So, see, even though, think about this, even though it's so that kings are, crowned by the people because the people love the person, it establishes a relationship between the people and the king. But Jewish kings are not like that, because having a king is one of the 613 commandments. And we didn't do it until we were already established on the land for a few hundred years. And then God said to the prophet Shmuel, it is time to do the commandment of making yourself a king. And see that guy over there? His name is Shaul. And he's the dude that should be king, because he was very tall. Other people's heads came to his shoulders. And this was a way for the prophecy to describe how this man was so smart that other people's smarts were equivalent to his emotions. And God said he would make a good king, and he was a good man, and he only had one problem. See, he was the first king, and he only had one problem, and his problem was that he tried to be a politician. That he thought, being a king is this is a political thing. And there was a whole, where you get people together, and there's this idea of money and power. So there's always going to be people who want to politicize it, which means that they're not dealing straight. They're not saying what they really think. They make up excuses. They have justifications, and they just can drag out the process forever. And this is politics. And many people wanted to be king. Why is this guy king? And the prophet said he should be king. Everyone wanted, not everyone, but many people wanted to be king. And all this intrigue, started to happen. And there were different things that happened. Some things he did good, some things he didn't do so good. But then at one point, Shmuel, the prophet, came and said to him that the time has come to wipe out Amalek. And who is Amalek? So Amalek is the original pedophile. Amalek is a nation, one of the parts of Rome. The tree of life. They're not tree of life. They're tree of the tree of generations. And Esav, I can't think of the word. It's some ology. Anyways, that these that the Amalek is is part of the genealogy. That's what I'm thinking about. The Amalek is part of the genealogy, and Amalek, the nation of Amalek, even though they hadn't been actually brought into the world yet, but they existed, in soul and spirit and in this world, but on, sort of like where the satellites appear, are is waiting to come down to the world. And the Jewish people, we were on our way, to Mars to receive the Torah, riding on this cloud, and Amalek attacked us and took the weak ones and would sodomize them, and they do also. They were weird. They had weird kind of sexual practices, like they would cut off the genitals of the man they had killed and throw him up to the air to God, as if to say, this guy deserved to die because he did something wrong sexually. See, sound familiar? The church has the same kind of thing, and they're just, and God said of Amalek that that I am going to destroy Amalek because my name cannot be complete as long as Amalek is in the world. And Amalek, they're attacking the Jewish people. When we just came out of Mitzrayim, is considered pedophilia. The Jewish people, we weren't even, we're going our way to get married. We're still a child. We're just an infant, just coming out of, and here they come and attack us. And God said, that is pedophilia, man. And I'm going to wipe your whole nation out. And where is this nation? So later, God, in the time of Shmuel, time of Dovid, time of Shaul's the first king, commands him, go now and wipe out Amalek. And wipe out all the animals of Amalek. And I'll, come after the battle. So Shmuel comes after the battle, and he hears animals. And he says to Shaul, you left the animals alive? He said, well, the people didn't see any reason to kill them, and we can, use them, and and he says that Shmuel tells him, you don't understand, Amalek, they're shapeshifters, and they shifted into animals, and now they got away, and now they're going to live again. And particularly because their king, his name was Agag, I think, that he kept him alive. He was supposed to kill everyone, kept him alive. And in that night that he was alive, he had sex with one of the slaves and eventually gave birth to his child. And this continued. Amalek actually went into Persia, to Iran, and that's where Amalek tried to destroy the whole Jewish people. So, they're trying to destroy us. We're trying to destroy them. There's this constant fight with Amalek. And what Amalek does is he inserts doubt. So, and because of this, because that Shaul just bowed to political pressure, so God said he can't be king. And but he was king until he died. And in the meantime, Dovid had been anointed king. But Dovid waited until Shaul died. He had a complete allegiance to the king, even though Shaul wanted to kill him and chase after him. And then eventually Shaul went to war, not with Amalek, with someone else, and died in war. And Dovid became king. And Dovid was king, for many years. And he was a really good king. But he had a lot of blood on his hands, and he had, he had been a great warrior. And he wanted to build the Beit HaMikdash, the temple. Time had come. Everyone knew now the time had come. But God said, your hands are too full of blood. Instead, your son will build the temple. And the temple's actually called on both names, Dovid or Shlomo. Or Shlomo's son. Shlomo means like shalem, peace. But peace also means, let me get my glasses here. Peace also means that complete. And Shlomo, he is the 15th generation since Abraham, and that's considered the full moon of the Jewish people. And his kingship was like no other kingship. You know, the three things that he wasn't supposed to do, he did. He wasn't supposed to return to Egypt, and he did. And he married their Egyptian princess. And he wasn't supposed to have a lot of horses, and he did. And he wasn't supposed to have a lot of wives, and he had 1,000 of them. Dovid, his father, had said 18's enough. And the stories, how the wives, each wife would prepare each night, each wife would prepare a sumptuous soup. And the Talmud goes into detail as to how how much bread, flour they use to make bread to take the fat out of the soup. And then they'd give all the bread to the people. And the king would go visit one of his wives, or maybe more than one, whatever. He was known, he was like the high point, and he was known for his excess, because the king can have whatever he wants. And he wanted something that he had to get from a demon, from the head demon Ashmotim. And the secret that he needed was of a particular worm that could cut stone, because they weren't allowed to cut stone for the altar with metal, because metal makes swords, and the whole thing of the temple was about peace. And but he knew that there was such a thing, and he got this demon, and he gave him this information, and then he started wanting more. He got the demon, man. Why not mine him for information? And the demon tricked him. They became real palsy, and the demon tricked him into letting him free. So he could. They could, go out and party or something, or just, and instead he took Shlomo and threw him across the world, and took on his appearance and started doing really weird things, But it was Shlomo. Meanwhile, Shlomo, he's thrown across the world, and he doesn't know how to get back. But because he's a king, and because he's suddenly in this big crowd of people, and they recognize this man is a king, and they make him king, and he's king for many years, and he marries, and he has children, and he becomes an old man, and then he realizes what had happened to him, and he has to go back. And so he gives them a present, a book. And this book is the updating of Greek, written under the name of Homer, because the Greek is also like a phonetic language. And Abraham had been passed on through the generation, the secret of Greek. They even found modern Greek in ancient Egyptian stones. And it's the only language other than Hebrew that a Torah can be written in. And be a kosher Torah can be written in Greek. And Homer, it means Homer, the speaker. And it says that Alexander the Great, he always took Homer with him when he went to battle, because he went off to Hellenize the world to make everyone speak the same language, Greek. And then anyway, so by that time he figured out how to get back, and he got back, and like 6 months had expired, and he got hold of the demon and took care of the demon, but Shlomo was never the same after that, and then began the slow decline of the kingship until finally it was destroyed 410 years later by Babylon, and with it the kingship. Eventually, we went to Iran, to Persia, and then eventually 2 of the 12 tribes returned to Israel, Levi and Yehuda. There were certainly other pieces of the tribes, but those like the majority 2 tribes. Levi worked in the temple, and Yehuda was, became, that's the source of the word Jewish, from Yehuda. And since then we have not. Let me see. I guess like in the, I don't know so well, but like when the Greeks were there, there were like Jewish kings, Jewish governors. I don't know. I don't think there were kings. There certainly weren't the kings like in the time of the first temple. And they built the second temple, and things were very different. And the ultimate king is Mashiach. So that's the thing. When Mashiach comes, everyone's waiting for Mashiach. What is, Mashiach? Who is Mashiach? Doesn't matter who Mashiach is. But Mashiach is a present from God, which will come down from the heavens when we've established peace in the world. And unfortunately, religious people like cling on to this, like Mashiach's going to come down and fix everything, so we don't have to do anything. And this is really stupid. Mashiach is going to come when we fix everything. And if we don't fix everything in 220 years, God will fix everything, but we will have not fixed this world as we're supposed to have done, and our opportunity will be over at that point. Excuse me. I'm getting a little cotton mouth. So, and the thing it says, that what the law says, the Rambam, 1,000 years ago, he says that the main thing that will change when Mashiach comes is that we will not, the Jewish people will no longer be subservient to any king in the world. And my teacher, Rav Abi, he once told me this story. They said that, there's three people, like, many people in the Talmud, but there's Rabbah. Rab is like just great, and he has 2 students, Rava and Abaya, and it says that you can't read 2 pages in Gemara, and Gemara is fast, without coming across either Rava or Abaya, and they just argued about everything. And once Rava, for some reason, either was called or he had to go see the Roman governor. So he walks in, and the governor's in his bath. They're like, "Governor will see you now." And he's in his bath, and he has all these naked, beautiful women around him, washing him. And I don't remember exactly, but they have like this conversation. And the governor asks him and says, what is it, that you, that's going to happen when Mashiach comes? So Rava says, we'll be free. So the governor laughs. He says, "Don't I look free?" And at that moment, someone runs in and says a message from the king. And according to Roman law, he has to stand up to receive the message. And he understood that Hobaya had Rava had given it to him. Now he had to stand there naked, and all the women had to leave, and he had to hear the message. So he says to him, "Whoever looks at you with bad eyes, his eyes should fall out." And just then, the governor's eyes fell out. So, and what did Rava mean? Will be free, that we won't be under any kingship other than Mashiach. We can be just purely Jewish, just live our lives on the land of Israel, the only place where you can do the 613 commandments and invite people from all over the world to come and to even live with us, to observe us, how that we serve God. And that would help everyone in the world to disseminate sort of Jewish knowledge. And there's no chiyuv in Jewish knowledge. There's no obligation, other than people who are Jewish. But even if you are Jewish and have the obligation, no one's going to come and tell you, "Hey, man, you got to do it," because the obligation is between you and God. Some of the obligations are between people and people, and that's what you have courts for. And that's the thing that Shlomo is very famous for, is his courts and his justice. And certainly the most famous story, he just becomes king. He's a young boy, and there's a problem. There's two women, and they both gave birth around the same time. They were in the same room. One baby died, and the other's alive. And the two women are fighting over the baby. Each one wants the baby, says the dead one is yours. They bring him to Shlomo, and everyone's waiting to see, is this boy going to be able to figure out what to do? So he listens to both mothers make their plea. And then he says, well, the only fair thing to do is to cut the baby in half and give each mother half. And he orders the bailiff or whatever to take out his sword, and one woman faints. And he says, okay, that's the mother. So, and this is this story really is very indicative of Jewish law, because Jewish law, the judge in Jewish law is looking for justice. Therefore, the judge gets involved in the case. It's not like our justice. We have an adversarial system, which is, you get these two sides and you make them fight with one another, and whoever survives wins. And but the Jewish system is based on a judge who is listening to the defense, listening to the prosecution, or whatever, the two sides, and trying to see deeply into it to try to uncover what really happened. What is the truth? That's what we're supposed to do. It's one of the 7 commandments given to all peoples in the world, to have courts of law that can determine what's true when you have a situation where we don't know. And the people usually at the head of the courts, they're very smart. And they know the nature of people. And particularly, back then, they just knew all sorts of things. And it's interesting that Sharia law is very similar to Jewish law. See, and everyone thinks, oh, Sharia law, they're going to come and, beat us with canes or whips or whatever. And tell you the truth, I'd rather be beat with a cane than be put into prison. A prison is a real cruel thing, and it's just as cruel as Roman justice, which is, and that's what they do throughout the world. They make fights with everyone and then say, okay, let's see who can win. And then, they made the rules. And they eventually they're out there bullying everyone to do what they should do. And and when Rome fell, that Rome did not just fall. Rome really didn't fall at all. They just transformed into the church. And the church is the one place, the Vatican, where all this really evil stuff has come out. And it's just, and people just need to realize that this stuff is such a lie. It's not just a lie, see, but it's libel. It's libel against the Jewish people, claiming that somehow we killed God. And yet there's no evidence that Jesus ever even lived. And the only way we know for sure really is in the Quran, which is prophecy, which gives us a lot of hints as to what happened and nothing about a cross. So the whole story is a lie, and it's all encapsulated in the Vatican. And God says, I will wipe out this nation. How's God going to wipe out this nation? God gets them all into one place, the Vatican, and each year earthquakes get closer and closer to the Vatican. And eventually the Vatican will be swallowed up, as one of the prophecies, prediction, I don't remember which, says that Rome will be left with one crumbling wall. And that's going to be the Vatican. And because what they have done to the world, how they have perverted justice, and we see it, in America with our now, Supreme cunt on the highest court, or someone who would just come in and throw her religion just in everyone's face, and they voted for her anyways. And how can that possibly be justice when someone goes in with a preconceived notion of what the truth is, and now, and becomes the kind of the fulcrum of the court? She controls the court now. Because this is, this is just about, this is Roman justice. This is just us. And now during, particularly during this time of Malkut, which has to do with the beautiful kind of kingship that God has over the world and over all people, that is being perverted by Rome in really a terrible way, to the degree that it's necessary for the American people to realize that this marriage between the government and the people, and the contract between us, the Constitution, is over, man. We need a divorce. You can have the money, we get the property. So that's what and it's not just a dream. So that we could do it. You could do it state by state, in the same way that they made marijuana legal. They did state by state until it became a whole thing, and pretty soon, it would be federal policy. And the same way, if you could get the governor of California to decree this, that we have to go through the courts till his final divorce, but we're separated. All the houses go to the people. Means we don't have any more people on the street. Everyone has a house. Once everyone has a house, money loses its value. And you can go out and work at what you love to work, instead of being forced into their kind of work, which is really, it's what they're doing. The governors are taking away money from the people to force them to get jobs they don't want to get. So, this is just outlandish. And if it's a marriage, we have just been abused, and it is a marriage, and we need a divorce. We get the houses, you can have the money for whatever it's worth. Anyways, I'm Dovid B. Timeless. I'm a Jewish mystic. This has been 420. Really nice getting high with you. Feel invited to go to my website, dovidhouse.com, buy a book, take a course, leave a message. See you tomorrow, 4:20.